there is no comparison. There are comparisons in this world. This is a glass compared to a, but that would be an apples and oranges kind of thing. But there's no comparison to truth. There's no comparison to this. It requires comparison in order for language to really be effective. That's why we have names, so we can compare, so we can pair them up and then compare. Well, that's Jane, that's Bob, whatever. So the Tao Te Ching has been telling us for about 2,600 years now that the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. In other words, this cup is the name of this, but that's not what it is. That's what cup is that it's an agreement that we will call this straw. And although there are many, many other types of cups, and so we're not comparing this cup to all others. We're just saying that that cup means like something you can hold in your hand that holds fluid, that can be used for hot things, cold things, whatever things. But it's not. So it's just so much easier to say cup than it is to say, one of those things that you can just hold in your hand, and you can put a straw in it. You can put liquids in it, hot or cold or whatever, and they don't, it doesn't get messy and all of that. Well, the thing that the body is they're still helpful because we don't, we are the very same thing, but we don't look alike, right? That what we're talking about here is oneness, not sameness. Is this? It's everything that it's everything that is. That's really everything that's been and everything that it will ever be. This oneness is just, there's no comparison to oneness because there's nothing other than oneness. So you can't compare to oneness, but there is within relativity. There are all these different units, and they're not the same, thank God. Right? And as I like to say, I'd never have married Betsy if we were the same, right? And but we are the very same thing, and which is what we are, the very same animating presence of these bodies. So what we're naming is the bodies. What we're not naming the animating presence, because there's only one name for that, right? This apparent mass, this apparent physical manifestation, we can name that Annette, we can name this one Ellen, name another one Malcolm, and those are handy because if I want to speak to Malcolm about something, and I can say, hey, Malcolm, why don't you stay late after class? And when I say that, Richard Ozer won't hang around. He'll know, oh, not this unit. But the thing about names is that none of them are true. Really, there's no thought that can go in a head that is true. There's really no true thoughts, because what you really are cannot be expressed in language. Because you think about it, you know what you are. You may be a little cloudy now, and all right, that's okay. But you know what you are. So let me ask you this. Is what you are, is it the reason you can't talk about it? Is it prior to language? I want to use language to describe that which is prior to language. It can't be done. I mean, with the divine, we're all really just speaking code words to try to get a point across to everybody else. And but there's no real Annette, there's no real Fred. Within relativity, there are these bodies that we call Annette and Fred, and that's fine, but there's no Annette thing in the middle of a netness. There's a netness, which are those patterns over there that are repetitive and and observable, but there's no being in the center of those patterns, just like the center of a hurricane or a tornado is empty, or the tornado. We're referring to the whirling circle. we're not actually talking about a thing in the middle, because there's nothing there but basically an absence of weather, at least within hurricanes. And I think it's similar within, if you're right at the core of a tornado, but I'm not really sure of that. But I am about hurricanes. But we still call it Hurricane Fred or Hurricane Annette. Instead of the weatherman having to come on every evening and say, that big bunch of things, the storm and rain and wind and weather, everything that was down. We talked about this morning that was down around Miami. Yeah, it was moving up toward Charleston now. And it's, but he just be able to say, Hurricane Annette is moving up the coast so much easier. So all these words, all these names, the problem is that we have to learn, and this is a big deal in clearing, is that we have to learn we can use language, we just don't want to believe it.
Okay.